Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben.
This is Diego Sanchez, Randy Couture,
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to Submission Radio, episode 144. It's Wednesday, the 25th of October. Submission Radio is back, baby. I guess we're back in people's lives, Casper, if people are tuning in right now. We weren't around last week. Technical difficulties broke our hearts and made us question, who are we? Who is Casper? Who is Submission Radio? What are we really?
Yeah, I've been like a lost puppy this whole week, just wandering around, trying to find myself, not really having any success. But we're back, and unfortunately, for those curious, last week we had some massive technical difficulties where our studio line was down and we couldn't make any outgoing phone calls. So the guests were ready, they were set up, we had some really fun, cheeky names. Colby Covington was supposed to be on the show and a whole bunch of others, and the guests were there waiting, and unfortunately they didn't get phone calls. We tried to resuscitate the show, we tried to find some sneaky ways around it, and in the end it was like, we were like doctors and the patient just didn't make it.
Yeah, well, Submission Radio became Leonardo DiCaprio and just died, which is what happens to Leonardo DiCaprio in most of his movies. But much like Leonardo DiCaprio, he's then in another movie, and here is Submission Radio, and we're back. We're able to resuscitate the patient. We dug up the corpse. We dug up the wrong corpse in the middle of the night. We got in a lot of trouble. Then we went back and we dug up the proper corpse, which was Submission Radio, and we put some organs in there. We stole some organs, put some people in ice baths, took some organs, put them in, and here we are. We're alive and well. And before we get into the episode, Casper, a quick mention. It was your birthday last week as well. There was some brews had at a sort of hipstery bar down Chapel Street. I can say its name was Lucky Cock. People may take that the wrong way. There were no naked guys. We were all very disappointed, but the people were smoking on us. You had a fun T-shirt on. If you want to let the people know what it said.
Yeah, it said, training to beat Goku, or at least Krillin, which is ironic because I haven't done any training in like 1,000 years. So, you know, I wear the T-shirt to take care of that.
Yeah, but the T-shirt got a lot of looks and people came up to it. It was a great talking piece and we had a great time. So, didn't get a chance to say it last week, but a big happy birthday to you, Casper. It's been
Thank you.
Some people have birthday months, birthday weeks. I don't like that shit. It's like you have your birthday and move on, dude. But for you, we weren't around for it. We have to say a big happy birthday to Casper. It was a great time, great catching up with all the friends and celebrating a fun time. But alas, our heart was empty with no Submission Radio. We've got a big episode of Submission Radio planned for everybody today. It's hard for me to distinguish how I should describe the guest, Casper. Is it sexy or spicy, or is there some other way we could is there another way we can put it in terms of describing the list of illustrious guests we have on today?
I like the little taco girl on the Old El Paso commercials. Why not have both, man? They're sexy and they're spicy. We've got Andre Fili. He is the first cab off the rank. Never had Andre Fili on the show. I feel like he's a long time coming. You know, sometimes where you think you've had someone on the show and you're like, yeah, he's a guy that we would have had on the show. He's someone that we would have gotten along with. And then it dawns on you, we've actually never spoken. So it's been overdue, but we've got Andre Fili coming the program fresh off his victory over Artem Lobov this past weekend at UFC Gdansk. Quite a few things to chat to Andre about. Obviously, the fight itself and also McGregor's comments afterwards that got McGregor into a lot of hot water. So really excited to have Andre Fili on the program. Dillon Danis. I don't think we've spoken to Dillon since the start of the year, but he is finally making his return. We know he had his appendix out recently. I feel for the guy. I've been through that myself. It's a shitty experience. So I think he's on the shelf, but he has been tweeting a lot about this MMA debut. A lot of people are getting excited. A lot of people asking, hey, when is it happening? Is it actually happening? I think the time is now. So we want to find out from Dillon what's going on with that. And also, our good friend Tim Kennedy. I'll never forget that moment where he tied your shoelace in that hotel room in New York City, Dennis. What an eerie experience. And then he pulled knives on us. Him and his crew on our crew. I know.
Videographer Justin was never the same. He recently got married and finished out his psychiatry sessions that were paid by Submission Radio in order for him to feel comfortable enough to tie the knots. So Tim's a great guy. Can't wait to catch up with him. And also joining us on the program is a man that needs a very little introduction. He's a European international superstar. Sean Sheehan from Severe MMA joins us back on the program. He'll talk to us about his KSW experience down there in Dublin. We're here It was an amazing experience as a fan. We want to find out what it was like attending the event and what that was like in general in terms of the crowd participation and just the entrances, the whole extravaganza that is KSW. What's that like? He'll be talking to us about that. Darren Till, what's next for him? Is he the next big star coming out of Europe? Sean's going to weigh in on that and what's going on with Cowboy Cerrone. Are we watching a decline right now? Are we on a roller coaster that's about to hit the big peak downtown? We'll find out. We'll find out if that's what's going on. And also this weekend, not the greatest card over in Brazil, but still a couple of key fights. Demian Maia versus Colby Covington and Lyoto Machida making his return against Derek Brunson. Lyoto Machida hasn't been around for a while. People are like, who is this Machida? Who is this guy? Who is this fresh-faced young man with a beautiful set of hair and stubble that makes him look like a detective from Law and Order SVU? We will find out this weekend, but will he be a victorious detective from Law and Order SVU? Sean will tell us his thoughts on that. And also, Cass, I've been hearing rumblings, just rumblings in the jungles, in the forests, that Sean Sheehan is a very, very capable FIFA player. I want to get it on record. I want to find out how good is Sean when it comes to FIFA, and is he willing to put something on the line, perhaps a bet, perhaps a wager, and who would that wager be against? So hang around till the end of the program. We'll talk to Sean a little bit about that and maybe even share our thoughts on the gaming world right now, what we're doing. So without further ado, before we cut to that first guest, Cass, the social media channels, we've been talking to a lot of people on social media and enjoying it.
Oh, of course. Jump on our Twitter, Submission AUS. Jump on our Facebook, Submission Radio AU. A lot of fun stuff there, even though we had the disaster of not doing an episode last week. You did put up a funny, cheeky video that you hand-selected of a bunch of technical difficulties. I really enjoyed that one. So jump on there, like the page. Feel free to chat with us. We always chat with you guys in the comments section. Jump on Twitter. Tweet us anytime. You can slide into our DMs whenever you want. You can also email us at info@submissionradio.com. Our lines are open. You can chat with us anytime. And if you feel like it, jump on iTunes, give us a review. We've got a lot of awesome ones. Pretty much all 5-star, which is almost shocking to me that you guys are so kind. But feel free to give us whatever you like. If you want to write something, you can. If you don't want to write anything, you don't have to. But we always appreciate them. And without further ado, like you mentioned, Dennis, our first guest is on the line, and I believe you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys, this is a big treat. Our next guest is making his first appearance on Submission Radio. Can you believe it? First appearance, and after a big night at UFC Poland, he took a unanimous decision win over Artem Lobov this past weekend. This is the man with one of the best nicknames in the sport of MMA. I'm, of course, talking about Andre Touchy Fili, and he's making his first appearance on Submission Radio. It's late over there in Poland, but we appreciate him joining us here on the program. Andre, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited. First time on the show, huh?
Yeah, we really appreciate it, man. We've been wanting you for a while. And how crazy is this? It's like 11:30 at night.
You guys so long?
I know. We should have done this a lot earlier. But you're still in Poland. It's late over there. Describe the current surroundings. Whereabouts are you? What are you doing in Poland still?
Yeah, it's cool, man. So almost every time I fought in UFC, I have my two best friends come out. They fly out wherever I'm at, even if it's in the middle of Poland. They fly out from California with me, usually for most of the week, and none of us had ever been to England or to Europe before. Mm-hmm. And so, we figured, what the hell? We booked our flights to stay a couple extra days and explore. We got a little Airbnb apartment, and we just been walking around, eating the food and seeing the sights, and getting dirty looks from people in Poland.
I love it. First of all,
I'll let you know a little secret. They do not like us here very much.
Why? Why is that?
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's probably because I'm walking around with two black eyes and a missing tooth and tattoos all over my throat. But it's also because I just think that it's just everyone I've talked to that has actually stopped talking. They've explained that like the culture is just different here. Like, people aren't gonna if you don't know someone and you pass them on the street, they're not gonna stop and smile at you. They're not even gonna acknowledge that you exist. It's just a cultural thing. Like if in California, where I'm from, Northern California, if you're walking down the street in Sacramento and you fucking bump into someone, your first instinct had better be to turn around and be like, oh, my bad. And both people go, oh, turn around, oh, my bad. And then you go about with your day, right? But here, if someone bumps into you or they're standing in line and they step on the back of your shoe, or if someone's standing in line behind you and they get too close and they bump you, that they're not going to stop and go, oh, my bad. Like, they're not even going to move back. Like, that's just where they stand. That's just where they're standing now. They're just standing that close to you. Or, like, if someone passes you on the street and your shoulders bump, like, when you turn around to say, oh, my bad, like, they're already going to be, they haven't even looked back. They're just going to continue walking at the same stride. Like, they're not even going to think twice about it. It's very different. It's very different culture. And I've gotten some pretty interesting looks. The people aren't like mean or anything when you actually talk to them, but they're not especially excited to start a conversation with you or even acknowledge that you exist. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And I'll tell you what, the other interesting thing about it is obviously you're there, you're this, obviously very, very skilled fighter, and you're going out of your way to be nice to everybody because obviously, it's a different culture there. But give us something positive about Poland, because we know it's also a pretty beautiful place. We speak to Joanna Jędrzejczyk quite regularly. She puts it over as a really, really good place to be. Kasper's from Poland, the other co-host right now. What's a favorite thing that you found with you and your mates from Poland? What was something that you guys enjoyed so far?
It's beautiful. The scenery is beautiful. The city's beautiful. All the people who have stopped to talk to us have been super friendly, and the food is pretty fucking good, man. The food's really, really good. I haven't stopped eating pizza since I got out of the cage. Pretty much, I've just been eating pizza at all times. Like, I've eaten other stuff, but I don't think I've gone more than like 4 or 5 hours without eating pizza. We actually had a really cool day. So one of my favorite tattoo artists, his name is Zixon, and on Instagram, and he's been one of my favorite tattoo artists for years, and I always wanted him to come to California, but I double checked because I knew he was in Europe, and he just happened to be tattooing. Like, I saw that his shop was in Poland, but I didn't know where, and I messaged him and I asked him, like, oh, are you pretty close to this area? And he sent me a picture, and he could like see the arena from the apartment, from his apartment. So it was really cool. I got to meet up with him. He's like one of my favorite tattoo artists. I got to get a tattoo from him. He kind of played tour guide for us and took us to a lot of cool spots. Today I saw this gigantic castle that was really badass at the World War II Museum. There have been plenty of really cool experiences out here. It's been a trip of a lifetime. But throughout all these cool experiences, I've gotten some of the craziest looks from strangers I've ever gotten.
I'm embarrassed.
I had an old woman. I shit you not. Shit you not, I had an old woman in the mall. Look at me. I turned to my right, and she was already looking at me. We made eye contact, and her jaw opened up and her eyes got wide, like someone out of a horror movie. And she was so shocked or scared or whatever she was feeling. She was so shocked that she, instead of just turning around and walking away, she actively kept her eyes on me, and she backpedaled a couple of steps to make sure she was in safe distance. And then she turned around and she began walking as quickly as her body would take her away from wherever I was. Like, it's been some very interesting interactions.
That's crazy. I'm embarrassed for my people over there in Poland. I thought you were going a different direction with that story. I thought you were saying like you locked eyes and then the tail of the tape came down and it was on.
No. We locked eyes and I found my true love. Yeah.
Congratulations, Andre.
Yeah. No, Poland's been fucking awesome, and the people, the tattoo artists I got tattooed out here. A couple different people. We had a friend of a friend who we met up with today, and he took us down. I mean, there have been numerous people who have been really, really cool and friendly and helpful, and they've helped us out. And the country is beautiful. It's like a really cool mix of it's like a lot of like green trees and vegetation mixed with like really old buildings and culture, but it's also like in Gdansk, it's like a lot of really pretty trees, but then it's like a lot of old buildings with graffiti, and then a lot of like brand new buildings. Like, there's cranes everywhere because the city's seems to be growing pretty fast. It's like this very cool mix of scenery. I really liked it out here.
That's awesome. Sounds like a blast. Obviously, a lot of great things happened from this past weekend. Like we mentioned at the start of the interview, you winning over Artem Lobov was a great fight. Now that it's sort of been a couple of days since the fights happened, did you expect for it to go down the way it did? And did the results sort of compare to what you expected from Artem?
Yeah, I would have liked to get to finish off that head kick in the first, but I knew he was tough, and I just kind of took the fight as it came. I pretty much what I expected from him. I know he was tough. I knew he was going to try to throw big looping shots, and I knew I could stay at range and sort of touch him up. And take him down if I needed to, which I felt great for the first 2 rounds. But towards that 3rd round, I really felt that I've been dealing with the time change, and I had a little over 20 hours of flight time because I had a couple big layovers and a couple things that happened in my travel. And then once I got to Poland, I was out here for a few days without getting really any sleep, maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. And
wow.
There was just a lot. I did a lot of things that made me really, I think, affected me during the fight, And so that 3rd round was not exactly how I wanted the round to go, but even tired and not feeling great, I still ended up with like 5 out of the 6 takedowns I shot, being successful. I feel like I got to display a little bit of my wrestling, and I'm really happy with the fight. I'm really happy with the win, I should say. There's things I want to improve about the fight, but that's the beauty of getting that win, is now it sets you up to get another fight and look even better.
Mm-hmm. And of course, before the fight even started, you showed us your own version of the billionaire strut. I got to find out, Andre, was that a last-minute thing, or did you have to study some tape on Vince McMahon before the fight to get it on point?
Oh, that wasn't planned at all. I didn't plan on doing that at all until I looked over while Artem was walking out, and I saw Conor McGregor trying to stare a hole through me, sweating out his $5,000 suit in the armpits, and I saw him trying to stare a hole through me, and I love that shit. I love confrontation. I love that showmanship. I love all of it. So I saw Conor trying to stare a hole through me. I stared a hole right back into him and showed him my billionaire strut, and then which I think mine's a little better than his personally, but I mean he definitely gets credit for reviving it, but I think mine was a little more. I think mine might have been a little more nuanced, a little more avant-garde, if you will.
Oh my God, I love it. It was very smooth. It was a good rendition. And obviously, there was that moment where Mark Goddard, he actually had to send Conor McGregor away from ringside. He said that it was unfair, as it was like Artem having essentially an additional cornerman yelling instructions to him. What were your thoughts on that? And I don't know, did at any point you feel like it was unfair?
No, not at all. To be honest, like I said, there was that minute and a half where Artem was walking out, where I sort of was having a little standoff with Conor. He was looking at me, I was looking at him, and we were just kind of having an exchange, and got me really excited. That confrontation got really excited, really sort of added a few stakes to the fight, and it just I love shit like that. So for Artem's walkout, me and Conor were having a little stare down, having a little pissing contest, which was fun. But during the actual fight with Artem, I didn't notice Conor at all. I didn't when Mark Goddard had stopped the fight for a second when I was on top of Artem. I didn't even realize what it was for. I had no idea. I thought he was standing us up at first.
Oh wow.
I didn't even hear Conor. I just heard my corner. I've been doing this since I was 19 years old, so I've learned to sort of zone in on my coach's voice, and that's all I hear. I don't pay attention to shit. Doesn't distract me when I'm in the middle of a fight.
And there was this video that went viral after the fight that captured Conor McGregor talking to Artem, and it sounded like he sort of referred to you, but in a bit of a derogatory way after the fight. Have you seen the video that sort of went viral where he
around a fag? Yeah, I've seen it for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. I'm not really one to like. I don't really use the word like that. Like I don't like. Yeah, it's not really something I do too much. But I'm not some social justice warrior. I'm not a dude who's gonna like. I don't think you should. I don't believe in like trying to censor people or tell people what they can and can't say. Like that you could say he could say whatever he wants. I'm not judging him on that. But the biggest thing for me is that. I didn't know that he had said all that because I was giving my post-fight interview. But moments after he said all that and my interview was done, I was in the back, and Conor approached me and told me that he had respect for me. I obviously had told him after the fight when I was still in the cage I had respect for him, which I do. I respect the shit out of him. But he had come and told me and shook my hand and said, I got respect for you. I got respect for Cody. Blah, blah, blah. And so, I thought that was cool. I respected that. But I didn't know. I hadn't known because I was still in the cage that moments before he was just walking around calling me a fag. So it's like, hey, had I have known that, it might have changed things up a little bit. I don't know. I'm all for showmanship. I'm all for showmanship. I'm all for talking shit. I'm all for putting on a show and build and getting the fans excited. So, you know, me and Conor were talking shit before the fight, but after the fight, you know, for me it's all respect. But, you know, after, which I thought it was for him as well. But, you know, it's like, for me, like what you see is what you get. I say what I mean. So I'm not, after a fight, I'm not going to call someone something 1 minute and the next minute go shake their hand, tell them I respect them and their teammate, you know? So, yeah, I don't really give a shit, to be completely honest with you. It doesn't affect me. I'm not a hater. I don't fucking worry about what other people do too much, you know?
And I get this sense that he wasn't really targeting you so much. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, we can talk all day about how what he said wasn't right, but it kind of seemed like more he was trying to comfort Artem than really take a sort of shot at you.
No,
so,
he was just,
yeah.
Bro, honestly, I think he was just a drunk dude trying to make his friend feel better about losing the fight. Like, I've seen that shit plenty of times. That's why I'm not really too bothered. I mean, that shit doesn't really bother me either way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really give a shit. Like, his friend got beat up and he was trying to make him feel better about it. So I didn't get beat up. I've been celebrating with my friends for the past 3 or 4 days. I'm not really worried about what other motherfuckers are doing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're too busy with these with these stare downs with these old ladies in Poland, but you've obviously had a lot of success.
I'm busy out here watching. Too busy out here watching my back, making sure some old lady doesn't hit me with a purse.
That's right. You've obviously had a lot of success in the UFC, Andre, and sort of, you know, in the past you've had this funny pattern where, you know, you'd get a great win and then you might lose some momentum in your next one. But now that you're sort of kicking off your new run, who do you have your eyes on in the division? Have you really gotten a chance to think about it? Is there anyone you're eyeing?
Yeah, I want to fight Doho Choi. That's who I'd like to fight. Which isn't you know, there's no disrespect. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a real tough kid, and yeah, no disrespect. It's just that we were already supposed to fight, and I was really looking forward to that fight because I think it is a good name. I think we match up well, and so it's not really about calling him out. It's more just that's the fight I was told I was going to get, and so you know, that's what I want. You know.
And it's a very exciting fight. I mean, a very fan-friendly fight. People would love to see that. Have you been able to speak to anybody? I know you're over there in Poland at the moment, but have you been able to speak to anybody in the UFC or in management or even on social media? Maybe hit up Choi on Twitter or something and find out if he's down for the fight and how soon it could happen?
You know, I know he's down because he already accepted it before he was injured. I know he's down for the fight. He's that kid. You know, he's like me. He's young. He's hungry. He's a fucking warrior. You know, He's down for the fight for sure. He already accepted it before he was injured. So I just want to get that scheduled again and really start proving a point. You know, I really believe I'm the best fighter, 145 pounds in the world. I think I really, really believe that. I really believe that I'm a world champion. I know I'm a world champion. I just really need to get these wins back together, get this consistency, you know? So it's like, instead of talking about how I'm going to do this or talking about how I want to do that, I just want to rattle these wins off against guys with numbers next to their name. And all I give a shit about is beating guys with numbers next to their name so that people can see, like, all right, like, I came in the UFC at 13-1, and it's been hit and miss for the last couple of years, and I've had enough of that shit. So I'm going to start rattling these guys with numbers off them. These guys that got numbers next to their name, I'm going to start rattling them off the list and clearing them out and get my rightful place.
And just speaking of the division, because obviously you've got a new champion in Max Holloway. He's a former opponent of yours as well. He's the current featherweight champion. What do you think about the sort of top 10 in the landscape of the division when you look at it right now?
I think 45 is and almost always has been and probably always will be one of the most stacked divisions, arguably the most stacked division in the fight game. I think there's a lot of really, really tough guys, and I think as far as Max goes, man, I consider Max a homie. Like he's a really solid dude. Like Max is a fucking good guy. Like I don't got anything bad to say about him. He's fucking solid, man. On a personal level, I consider him a homie, you know. On a professional level, it's like, of course, like he's the champ. So everybody wants that belt. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be sacrificing and the way we sacrifice unless we wanted to be the baddest motherfucker in the world. I think me and Max had a great fight the first time. And if we fight again, I think it'll be an even better fight, you know. So I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited to get wins against really top guys and work my way towards the belt. Regardless of who has it. I think there's a lot of really badass dudes in the weight division in the division, and I'm really excited to prove that I'm better than those guys. And that's really what it comes down to. But as far as Max specifically, I got nothing bad to say about him. He's fucking awesome, man. He's a good ass dude, and he's a fucking great fighter. So I'm happy for his success. Me wanting the belt, it doesn't have to do with me not wanting him to be successful. I just need to get a piece of my own. I need to show the world, and I need to show my team, and I need to show most of all myself that I'm the fucking world champion, and that's the mindset that you have to have if you're going to be successful in the sport.
I was literally going to say the same thing. I was going to say that's exactly the mindset that you have to have. So it's awesome to see that you've got it, Andre. Andre, we'll let you go in just a moment, but before we do, I just got to quickly touch on UFC 217. Obviously, a lot of things happening at Team Alpha Male. Obviously, a lot of talent, a lot of high-quality elite guys, such as yourself, coming out there. A lot of guys training all at the same time. And, of course, Cody Garbrandt makes his first title defense against TJ Dillashaw. Obviously, a former Team Alpha Male guy. What's it been like, sort of, in the gym, the vibe, you helping prepare, Cody Garbrandt for a guy like TJ Dillashaw, who I would assume, you know well from training, you've sparred a bunch of times. What's it like sort of preparing Cody for a former teammate, and how do you see this fight going?
Man, Cody's been killing it. Cody's one of the most intense guys I've ever seen in any workout room. The kid's a fucking champion, man, just through and through. He's a bad motherfucker. I think he's gonna do great in this fight, and it's been a really great experience to watch him get ready for his first title defense and sort of build this run, because he took the belt in such a insane fashion, the way that he took the belt was so great to watch that. I think it's gonna be even better to watch him retain it. It's gonna be better to watch him keep it. Hold on to it. I think he's gonna have a great performance. Obviously, a lot of people are gonna be tuning into this fight for the personal reasons. There's all kinds of baggage along with this one, but really, I'm just happy for my friend that he gets to defend his belt. There's obviously all kinds of personal shit that goes with the fight, but there's all kinds of personal shit that goes with this fight. But the most important thing is that I'm excited for my friend that he gets to defend his title, and remain a world champion.
Well, it's going to be a very, very exciting card. And Andre, we really appreciate the time, man. I know it's very late over there in Poland. It's approaching midnight, so we'll let you go so you can get some rest and sort of get some sleep so you can deal with some of these Polish old ladies that are trying to fight you on the street. Guys, make sure to follow Andre on Twitter at TouchyPhilly. Of course, visit his website, touchyphilly.com. That's where you can go to find out all the information about him. The guy is on a run, and if this fight with Choi comes together, it's going to be a super exciting next step in this run. Andre, I can't believe it's taken so long to have you on the program. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's do it again soon.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Our next guest is one of the most well-known and controversial grapplers in the world. He is known for his exciting matches, his outspoken and honest nature, and will also be taking his skills into MMA. He is the one and only Dillon Danis. Dillon, welcome back to Submission Radio, man. Thanks for dropping by. How's things?
Things are going good, man. I haven't been on the show for a while. Happy to be back on.
I know. It's been a little bit of a while. We were happy to get a message from you to get you back on the program. It's good to see you got a little bit of time to jump back on the program and let us know how everything's going. So tell us, to what do we owe the pleasure? What's new in the life of Dillon Danis?
Man, I'm just recovering right now. I had a surgery like 2 weeks ago, so I can't train for like 4 weeks. So right now I'm just recovering, doing some other stuff, but just can't wait to get back into training so I can make my debut.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take us into that, because I personally, I've had my appendix removed. It's not much fun. What was the story there? Because usually it happens that you go through a little bit of agony before you realize that it is actually appendix. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, I mean, it was miserable. It was a miserable night. I punched the wall 4 times. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was just a stomachache.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the morning and the pain was still there. And my friend was like, "You need to go to the hospital." And I was like, I'll just hold it off. And then I waited, and it was 6 in the afternoon. I was like, oh man, I got to go. And then it ended up being appendicitis, and I had a hernia too. So that's why I can't train for a while, because I could pop the hernia again. So I had both. So I had to get surgery on both. And Yeah, it just takes time, you know. I'm getting better day by day, though. I feel like I should be able to train soon.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about potential things in the MMA realm, obviously you were at ADC recently. You had some really entertaining, some close matches, and you beat Yukiyasu Ozawa, but you came up short against Gordon Ryan and Muhammad Ali. How do you look back on those performances?
You know, I like to see like my performance was good, but I didn't get the results that I wanted. You know, I feel like nowadays a lot of the matches get like, you know, I mean, they're big matches and sometimes they don't go my way, and it's just like I don't know. I feel like a little bit of the grappling world doesn't really have the best taste in mind against me in some of the matches and like the refs' decisions and stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you get what you deserve. So I just like to put that in my head, and you know, I just need to get back on the horse and beat those guys.
Because a lot of people had you winning against Ryan. Do you feel like you should have gotten the decision?
100%. I thought I got the decision. I mean, when I went backstage, every single person was telling me I won the decision. Even guys are like, yeah, you know, I hate you, but I thought you won that fight. And I was like, all right, cool. But I mean, yeah, I really thought I had the decision against them, you know, and that I feel like that match was mine. And yeah, it's really hard to deal with sometimes. But you know, I'll get that rematch, and then I won't have to go with the refs.
You mentioned sort of the jiu-jitsu world not really maybe, I don't know, appreciating your style. Do you think maybe like some of those losses, they're sort of, you've got this kill or be killed style where, you know, you're always constantly going for the finish, making the match exciting, and sort of sometimes opponents end up racking up points. Do you think it's a little bit of that by any chance?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, it is what it is, you know, that's on me. So, I mean, I could just make a little adjustments here and there. And, you know, I have a new team now, so that's going to help me out a lot too. You know, before I was kind of bouncing around trying to like find my own. And I think that was hard for me. You know, I couldn't really get down like a solid game plan and a solid training schedule like I used to have at Marcel's. You know, at Marcel's we had like a disciplined schedule. And, you know, I'm starting to get back into that now, which I think is going to help me a lot, you know.
Who is the new team, by the way, for those that don't know? And how did you sort of come to the decision to make them your, you know, official new team since the departure from Marcelo Garcia's?
So my new team I'm going to be training with is Unity. So the instructor would be Murillo Santana. The Miao brothers train there. And I don't know, it's just very fit, man. They're a fighter's gym. Like, they don't care about, like, catering to, like, I would say hobbies or stuff like that. You go in there and you know, it's a bunch of guys are looking to be world champions, and the mindset in there and just the training and everything like that is really catered to what I want to do and what I like to train in. The environment is a super intense and super focused environment, which is really good for me.
And earlier in the year, you said that after the ADCC, you plan on focusing on MMA full time. Does this mean you're officially transitioning now after you heal up?
100%. I'm ready to go now. Like, I want to start training full time in MMA, but like after some of these matches are like so close, and I felt I won them, I kind of want to, you know, I don't want to go out like that in jiu-jitsu. But I think I'm gonna make my debut maybe January. Maybe I was planning on December before this whole surgery thing happened, but I want to focus a lot more on my hands and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go full in now to MMA, and maybe still do some jiu-jitsu matches, or maybe focus a little bit more on jiu-jitsu and then do both. I don't know. I'm trying to figure everything out now. Honestly, it's rough, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what a bummer that this stupid surgery sort of got in the way, and the appendix got in the way, so you know, you didn't make the debut or won't in December. How close was it as far as December? Like, were you already talking to Scott Coker? Was there already sort of like matchmaking going on, and then this surgery derailed it, or was it sort of still very early stages?
I mean, I wanted to fight in New York. I want to fight somewhere around here. So I was like texting them saying, is there any fights going to be here? You know, and we were just talking about that, you know, the venue and stuff. I want to fight my debut in Madison Square Garden. That's what I wanted. I was just wondering if they were going to come back or anytime soon. So we were just talking about that. And yeah, I'm just trying to figure out dates and opponents and stuff like that. But honestly, the opponent doesn't really matter. I'm just looking for the date, you know. You just need to give me a body to kill.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like you're sort of, you know, a little bit on the fence as far as, you know, what you're going to be doing with, you know, grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you had gone into ADCC and just, you know, cleaned up and you know, won all your matches, would you have said goodbye to Jiu-Jitsu and focus 100% on you know, MMA, or was it always sort of the plan to do a bit of both regardless?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have just said bye to jiu-jitsu for now and then, went to MMA, but jiu-jitsu is my love and my passion, so I don't think I could ever say bye to it. But it's hard for me, man, because I've been competing in jiu-jitsu since I was 15, so it's still hard for me to even transition to MMA because I love jiu-jitsu so much. So it's kind of rough, but I'm excited to go into MMA and show what everybody doesn't think I can do, And after ADCC, I kind of felt that vibe because, we were kind of out after, we were all hanging out. Usually everybody goes out after ADCC. And I feel like a lot of guys that couldn't do it like to say that I can't do it because they couldn't do it. And it kind of like bothers me in a certain way. Like if we're all on the same kind of battlefield here, we're all jiu-jitsu guys. Like I feel like all the jiu-jitsu guys should be kind of motivating me and saying, hey, you can do it, So I just feel like I want to go out there and prove what I believe, which is that I can go out there and submit all these guys or, beat all these guys. And I don't think anybody really believes in me, but I just want to show the world that jiu-jitsu is still the #1 martial art, and I'm going to go and prove that.
It's kind of funny because I've heard you say, like, when you go into MMA, you want to sort of fly the flag for jiu-jitsu. You want to be a representative, kind of like, for lack of a better example, kind of like Demian Maia, who goes in there, he really wants to show the art of jiu-jitsu. But like you mentioned, do you sort of get that vibe that the jiu-jitsu community, they kind of want you to fail? Because if you do go in, then you have success, it might make some guys look bad because, they're just sticking to jiu-jitsu and, maybe, I don't know, maybe they might have to ask themselves questions about, hey, why didn't I become an MMA fighter? Why didn't I transition?
Or even they did MMA and then they couldn't do it. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many jiu-jitsu practitioners that ever really went into MMA and were successful. Damian is probably one of the only ones. I mean, Jacare, there's maybe like 2 or 3. And then there's guys that you haven't heard about, like world champions that have been on the undercard and they got knocked out or beat by decision. So there's a lot of guys that are like that, And I just honestly think that it's a style thing. I think that they're not aggressive enough. That there's a lot of things that I could pick apart that they didn't do that I feel that I can do. And I swear to God that like 100% in my heart that I feel like I could do it. So I wouldn't go and do it if I didn't believe I could do it. And I just want to prove that and I want to show that.
What kind of vibes are you getting right now from Bellator and Scott Coker? Do you feel like they'll push you as a major star and maybe even the face of the roster eventually?
I think so. I mean, the only people that wanted, the only fighter that people want to see now is me. I keep seeing that online and stuff. So I think they will push me. I mean, they don't have to push me. I push myself. I make my own hype and I make my everything. I'm kind of pushing everything for myself right now. So that's how it always has been, and then that's how it is. I don't really need to do too much. People just follow what is real, and they see that I'm going to go and do it, so they follow, and they are all behind me,
And, I mean, you mentioned the gym change for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but what's your structure going to be like when you do transition to MMA full-time? Are you going to live in Ireland and train at SBG, or have you figured out another MMA gym more locally that you'll be training at for your Bellator debut?
I think I go to SBG. I have a really good relationship with Kavanaugh, but I don't know if I'll move there full time. Maybe I'll do like 3 months here, 3 months there. I don't know yet. I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. Maybe I'll just like do a couple months here and then a couple months there. So, or maybe I move there full time. I don't know. Who knows? I haven't really thought about it, but I have a good relationship with Phil Nurse here, and he's really wanting to like help me with striking and stuff like that. So like I could do like a couple months here, a couple months there. I'm just trying to figure everything out now.
Yeah, Phil Nurse obviously is a legend. You spoke earlier in the year about how you wanted to train with him. How did that relationship start? Where do you know Phil Nurse from? Is it something recent that you sort of got in contact with him for MMA, or have you known him for a while?
I think I don't know how it happened. He invited me to come to his gym, and then I ended up going, and then something happened where he didn't get to come, and we didn't get to train that day, and then he has my number. He'll call me here and there and make sure he checks up on me and stuff like that. He's actually a really nice guy, and seems like he's really caring, So once I'm healed, I'm gonna go train with him and then see how the combination goes. So, I mean, he is a legend. When a legend wants to take you in, you can't say no. So I just want to see how it is. Right now, a lot of people are asking me to come train and go to their gym and stuff like that. So I just gotta make sure I surround myself with the right people. I already know who I want to train with SBG. It just kind of happens to be that they're kind of far away and, stuff like that. But who knows, maybe one day I'm going to move full-time out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds obviously like Phil's been super welcoming. How have you found the MMA community sort of, I guess, reacting to you making your debut? It almost, because obviously you've got a target on your back. Obviously there's a lot of fighters that are calling you out. But in terms of trainers, in terms of coaches, in terms of, people that actually want to get in the Dillon Danis business, are you a little bit almost surprised at how sort of opposite it is from, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, who might not really want you to succeed, as opposed to the MMA community who, looks like they sort of want to hone your skills and, take advantage of a talent like yourself?
Yeah, I get both sides of it. I get people that are really nice and want to help me out, and then I get the guys that don't want to see me succeed because I feel like they think it'll make MMA look bad. Some guy that's 0-0 is going to come in and beat everybody, So I get both sides of it. But a lot of the MMA guys that talk a lot of crap or talk a lot of shit about me, the result that I see when I meet them face to face is they're really nice. So I never understood that. I don't understand why you would fabricate something and then when you see the person, you're real nice to them. So that's not what I'm about. I'm about being real and just saying how you feel, honestly. So if I respect someone, I'm going to respect them in person. I'm not going to switch it from, online to in person. So if I talk shit about someone, I'll talk shit about them to their face. Or if I respect someone, say I respect the guy I'm fighting, then that's what it is. I respect them. I'm not going to make some kind of fake beef and stuff like that. That's one thing I don't really like in MMA is like the fakeness of some things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really care about what people think, so fuck it.
Just going back to your Bellator debut, have you settled on what weight class you'll compete in? And if you have, what was the determinant factor in the weight class that you chose?
I think 170 is going to be good for me. I was talking to Lockhart about it. He was saying 170. But honestly, I feel I can make 55, but maybe later on in my career. For now, 170 I think will be good for me. I like to eat, so I like to enjoy some food. At 170, it'll be hard, but it won't be too crazy. 155 will be like super hard, but I think I could get it done. But I want to start with 170 for sure.
And in terms of, early opponents, I'm wondering sort of what you're looking for from your MMA debut in terms of opponents. We saw recently Aaron Pico, massive prospect, made his debut at Bellator NYC, and he got matched up against a guy who, Zach Freeman, who already had 10 fights. Are you sort of looking to jump straight on the deep end, or are you hoping for, someone maybe of not so much a similar level to you, but in terms of experience in MMA, maybe, an 0-0 guy, an 0-1 guy to sort of, get your feet wet in your debut?
It really doesn't matter to me, honestly. I'm 24 years old, so I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight everybody anyway. So, honestly, I was thinking it'd be really cool to fight the champion in the first fight. I was thinking like Douglas Lima.
Wow.
So, I really think that Douglas Lima would be an easy fight for me. I really think so. I feel that on the ground I would, play with him, and that was what I was thinking. I thought that would be kind of cool, but. I got to listen to my coaches, too, and make sure that I go on the right path because I'm not in this just for 2 or 3 fights. I'm in this to be the best in the world. So I'm just going to listen to the people I have around me, but I honestly think Douglas Lima would be an easy fight.
Wouldn't that be amazing if you go in there, a guy went 0-0 and then dethrones the champion in their first fight? That'd be amazing. Did you speak to Bellator about your plans, and did they sort of give you any indication of what they were thinking?
No, this is the first time I kind of thought about that. I talked to Bellator here and there, and then the stuff with the surgery, I kind of let back because there's no point in me talking to Bellator, looking for opponents and stuff like that if I can't train right now, So
yeah,
it's kind of not the best mindset I want to be in. When I'm about to fight, I want to be training hard and having everything going my way. That would be the kind of case. But that would be something special. I really think I could do it too. I believe in my heart 100% I would beat him in my first fight. So, who knows?
And just on Douglas, he's a little bit underrated because he, isn't fighting for the UFC. But as a champion, how do you compare him to the equivalent, UFC champion in the 170 division? Do you believe people sort of underestimate him and don't give him the credit that he deserves with the skill set?
I think so. That's just how everybody in Bellator kind of gets there. Everybody kind of judges the guys at Bellator to the UFC, but right now you're seeing it. Like Gregor Marsasi had a really tough time with Shlemenko, and there's guys like Lorenz Larkin that was 0-2 in Bellator now, and he was on a 3-4 winning streak in the UFC. So you could see that the level in Bellator is super high, and Douglas Lima has a good amount of title defenses on his belt, and I think he's a very good fighter, and I think that he deserves respect for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about champions and obviously high-level guys, you tweeted out the other day that apparently your first opponent in Metamora 6 was actually meant to be Tony Ferguson himself before you got Joe Lozon. Is that true?
Yeah, that was true. They were we were talking about opponents, and I think they brought up Tony Ferguson. Hey, like, do you want to go against Tony Ferguson? I was like, yeah, sure. But at the time, he was like a purple belt, and no one really knew who he was. And I was like, but, you know, whatever. I don't remember how it came about. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then they came up, and they were like, oh, we have Joe Lozon, too. I was like, let's go with Joe Lozon. At the time, like, Joe Lozon was the band, you know? So I think that was just at the time, it was Joe Lozon or Tony Ferguson. And Tony Ferguson was a nobody back then. He was a purple belt. Joe Lozon had like the most submissions in the UFC, so obviously I was going to go with him at the time. But I mean, yeah, so that's a cool little story.
That's funny. And in hindsight, given his current position in the UFC, do you kind of wish you did go with Tony instead?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it wasn't like really my choice. It was kind of them like telling me like, oh, here we have these two, and then like I think for them too at the time, Joe Lozon was a better draw, you know. So
yeah.
I mean, I wish, yeah, that would be cool to have a win over Tony Ferguson too.
I'm curious because obviously Tony's had a lot of success with his grappling in the UFC. What do you think of Tony's grappling in BJJ? Not necessarily compared to yours, but just in general. When you see what he does in MMA, when you see his Darce chokes and the way he applies his 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, are you impressed? Do you think he's does a good job of it?
I think so. I think that he does a lot of moves that a lot of these guys aren't used to because they're not that crazy of moves, but it's just that he's very aggressive and he attacks a lot, but they're super basic setups and they're very easy to defend. But I think a lot of the guys he fights are just not ready for him, and he's very unorthodox with the way he moves. And I think that I mean his submissions are, I guess I would say they're he's good for MMA submissions, I would say, or jiu-jitsu.
And this is, of course, the question of whether it will be him or Nate Diaz that faces Conor McGregor next. From what you know, who do you think it'll end up being? What kind of makes sense more from your perspective?
Honestly, I mean, I haven't really talked to Conor or any of those guys about it, but I would think Tony Ferguson next because of, he's won and Conor's going to defend the belt and stuff like that. And me knowing Conor, Tony Ferguson is talking a lot of shit, and I know Conor's going to want to shut him up, so I can see that happening. But, I mean, either fight they're both awesome fights, so I could see either one happening. I really don't know, honestly.
The way Tony's speaking, do you think that's the kind of thing that sort of gets Conor McGregor's attention? Because you never really know. I mean, it seems like Conor really kind of makes the decisions, and ultimately it'll come down to, I guess, what tickles his fancy more, what gets him more excited. But the way Tony's sort of performing and saying these things to Conor, do you think that's something that sort of gets Conor out of his chair and excited? Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, he's done it all in the sport too. So I think he likes challenges, and he likes when people don't I wouldn't say people won't believe him, but people don't think he could do something, When he first the UFC, people say he couldn't be a wrestler. He was they were giving him easy matchups, and then he kept proving everybody wrong, and I think that's what gets him going is proving people wrong. And I think a lot of people think that Tony is a tough matchup for him, and I think he would want to prove people wrong there. He already beat Nate, so I could see that. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's his choice and whatever he thinks. So, but for me, knowing him, I think he likes to prove people wrong, and that could be the Tony fight.
Obviously, you've worked with Conor on his grappling before. A lot of people saying if he does fight Tony Ferguson, Tony's going to have a huge advantage over Conor on the ground. And, his best way and easiest way to winning the fight is via submission. How do you think Conor does with Tony on the ground? Does he, I suppose, is he able to handle himself if Tony does get him down?
100%. I don't know what people judge that off of. I don't know why they would say he has a superior advantage on the ground or stuff like that. People don't even know what Conor's jiu-jitsu is like or anything like that. So me training with Conor so much in jiu-jitsu, I feel like he'll be fine on the ground or even better. So yeah, I would look forward to seeing that fight. I think Conor's going to pick him apart on the feet, most likely knock him out early, or he would probably do whatever he wants with him. Tony's very sloppy. If you watch his fights, he gets hit a lot. And when you get hit against Conor, you go out.
All right, well, look, Dillon, we could sit here and talk to you all day, but unfortunately, we got to let you go. We can't be too greedy with the time. As we let you go, What is the plan for you now? Obviously, you're recovering. You've got the appendicitis surgery sort of in the rearview mirror. How are you sort of going to be, spending the time now between now and when you make your debut?
I'm looking at doing a lot of boxing, a lot of sparring, a lot of wrestling, stuff like that, and just getting ready to take over MMA, honestly. I think the time has come now for everybody to see that this ain't just all talk, that I'm going to go out there and prove what I say is true.
And at the moment, January, that's the targeted date for your debut?
Yeah, that was, but I mean, we got to see, like, I still can't train, like, I have to get cleared by the doctor, but yeah, it depends on everything, like me getting back to training and figure everything out, but I would like January, maybe even a little bit later than that, but we'll see.
All right, well, we're excited, man. Look, when it is locked in, don't be a stranger. Come back on the show. We don't like these long sort of distances between having you on the show, so definitely come back soon. And guys, don't forget to follow the man at Dillon Danis on Instagram and Twitter. A lot of great photos from European adventures recently, so a lot to check out. And as always, Dillon, really appreciate you coming on the show and chatting with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, this is Ariel Helwani, and you're listening to Submission Radio with my two favorite mates, Dennis and Casper.
All right, guys. Our next guest is one of our favorites to chat to. He is a United States Army Ranger, a sniper, a Green Beret, was awarded the Bronze Star, has hunted Hitler, is one of the most dangerous men in the galaxy. ISIS fears him, women love him, and he's kind enough to join us back on the show, the equal parts deadly and funny Tim Kennedy. Welcome back to Submission Radio. It's been a while. How are you, Tim?
God, I love those intros. I think anytime I'm like low on confidence or kind of feeling down, I was hanging out with Charlie Brown. I just want to call in to Submission Radio so I can hear that intro again.
Yep.
Well, tell us, Tim, because we love having you on the program, and it's been a little bit of a while. We've seen you've been all over the world recently. Whereabouts are you joining us from at the moment?
Well, I got back to Austin, Texas about 2 days ago. First time I've been home in 4 months. 19 countries in 4 months, and I'm now in the beautiful, great Republic of Texas.
All right, awesome. I feel like your bed doesn't know you anymore. You come home and your bed is like, who's this guy? I don't know him anymore.
It gives me this really weird look, and then when you get kind of familiar with smells. When I get in bed, it like sniffs me, and it's like, get out. I don't know who you are, but you need to leave right now. It's weird. It's really weird.
Well, yeah, I mean, no wonder. You've been all over the world. You've been all in South America. We see on your Instagram you're in places like Paraguay, and you're even up in Nigeria, all over the world, really. And you're obviously filming the new season of Hunting Hitler. And we saw a story the other week, actually, where the location scout, a bit of a sad story, the location scout for the show Narcos was actually found in Mexico. His body was found in Mexico, riddled with bullets. And it sort of got us thinking, like, when you're doing this show, Hunting Hitler, and you're on location, all these other, random crazy countries, do you ever find yourself in danger? And do you have to sort of, defend yourself? Have you had those kinds of situations?
For sure. The Nazis kind of suck, and albeit there haven't been these kids walking down with tiki torches in the United States and like Charlottesville, they're just idiots that are pretending to be something that they have no idea what they are. Nazis killed 12 million Jews and then escaped throughout the world with hundreds of millions of dollars. And myself and a whole bunch of people that believe in justice go and try and find them. And they don't want to be found. Even their kids don't want to be found, their grandkids don't want to be found. Which is ironic, especially when they have like swastikas and SS tattoos on their neck. But we've been in Chile and in Argentina and in southern Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, Austria, and yeah, they don't like us. I don't know why. Whatever.
Who doesn't like you? The South Americans?
Well, specifically the blue-eyed, blonde-haired second generations of a Nazi war criminal. They specifically. Now, man, I go down there, I start speaking Spanish, beautiful brown-haired Latino girl. They could care less while we're there. But it's just really a very small segment of the South American society that doesn't appreciate my affinity for justice.
And it's interesting as well because obviously the first, the show's been a hit. A lot of people really love watching it. So I'm guessing the word is sort of making its way around the, I suppose, hidden Nazi communities that you guys might be coming from. Have you noticed that now that the show is popular and more people are watching it, they sort of, I suppose, don't like you even more when they see you around those areas, sort of maybe even know who you are as you approach them because of the show's popularity?
No, 100%. Specifically in South America and Europe, the show, in the United States, the show is like number 3 or 4 for History Channel.
Wow.
I think a show Oak Island even beats us, which is kind of embarrassing. But worldwide, we're the number 1 show for the History Channel. We're in like 100-something countries in a few dozen languages. And so in South America, everybody knows who we are. Everybody watches the show, and it's called Searching for Hitler down there. And we have definitely made the rounds within the very small community. So we try to find legitimate, real evidence, and that is traded kind of on the black market. And there's a really small market for these assholes that want to collect these memorabilia of Hitler and Nazis. And those are sometimes some of the groups that we're trying to crack into, but now they all know us. So, the 3rd and final season's coming out next month, and it's going to be the biggest and greatest thing that we've ever done. We found more stuff. We did more things, more people trying to hurt us. And but the truth cannot be suppressed.
Of course. I'm just wondering, when you mention all these, black markets and all these things that you go through, how do you guys manage to do that, especially with cameras following you around sometimes when they're trying to shoot the footage? Because I suppose that would be very difficult to stay, I suppose, hidden and trying to get these deals done, but you've got the lighting people, the camera guy behind you. And is the camera guy also trained in case something goes down?
Well, man, I think you're really underestimating my sneakiness. I am a really, really sneaky guy. I realize I'm built like a troll. I have hair on my hands. I have a Cro-Magnon forehead. I'm probably a couple of generations removed from a tree. But even gorillas can be sneaky.
Wow. All right. Well, we're learning something about Tim Kennedy. We always know you're a solid, thick guy, but now you got sneakiness added to the arsenal. Here's one thing that I've wanted to ask you for a while, Tim. You've obviously, you're a guy, you've egged ISIS on in the past. You don't exactly avoid combat. And in general, you sort of
they're
seem...
a bunch of pussies, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. Well, okay, yeah. So to you, they're pussies. I mean, I would be pretty scared, if they rocked up to my house. But you're kind of like, hey, I'm Tim Kennedy. Come down here, and we can, have some fun. And you seem like sort of an adrenaline junkie. When you're in a situation that looks like it might get dangerous, is there a part of you that gets excited? Are you kind of hoping that it does, and you get to use your skills? Like, do you enjoy that aspect, or are you kind of hoping that, you don't have to resort to defending yourself?
It's been a really long time since somebody looked at me and, all 220 pounds of Irish, red-haired, armed Cro-Magnon man, probably signs of early pattern baldness coming in, and been like, that's the guy I want to pick a fight with. That guy. That guy looks like he'll be an easy fight. It's been like a couple of decades. And wow. even when I'm walking into a bar and the dude has an SS tattoo on his neck and his buddy sitting next to him has, swastika on his forearm, and I walk up, I'm like, hey, dickbags, what's going on? So I really hate your grandpa, and I would mind if you take a few minutes and talk to me and my friends, all of which have cameras, about how bad your grandpa sucked. Sometimes it elicits emotional response out of them, but for some reason they never go full idiot. They never go like, all right, there's a bunch of words exchanged, but they still never take the leap off the plank. Which is always disappointing to me. Not that I'm a shark. I'm not saying like I'm a great white swimming through the waters of Nazism, but maybe I just want to take a little nibble, like a little chomp.
Yeah.
Not Jaws like, but maybe like a barracuda, like a little bite in Florida.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest weapons and skills you have, Tim, that we don't really talk about is the fact you're a charming man, and I think the charming skills also get you through a lot of these situations. But curious, I mean, through all the stuff that you've put up about ISIS and coming down to the problem, have you ever had any close calls? Have you seen anyone from ISIS actually take you up on your offer recently since you've been putting up the stuff on social media?
Well, so I mean, the FBI keeps on getting pretty pissed at me, which means I think I'm doing a decent job. You know, if the FBI is, so they have abandoned calling me because they realize that I don't care. So then they try to call my wife, and they're like, hey, you know, somebody is actively trying to recruit somebody in Central Texas to come and find you guys. And she's like, oh, man, I think Tim's going to post his location tomorrow at his gym and probably, like, maybe even invite him. So, like, they don't even know what to do with the Kennedy household as a whole. I think some of the closest calls I have had, you know, there's a huge immigration problem in Europe right now, a lot of which are radicalized fanatics that are moving into low reproduction countries that need immigrants to sustain their existence. Germany, France are two really great examples. And, you know, so their kind of reproductive rate they need is like 2.1, 2.2, and they're averaging like a 1.6 or 1.7. So their chancellors and presidents are like, oh, yeah, bring everybody up, you know, whether it's from the Middle East or from North Africa, which is a really brilliant idea. So you can completely lose your culture, which is about to happen. So with this group, if you look at kind of statistics, everybody says if you bring in, let's say 100 people from northern Iraq, southeastern Syria, you're going to get somewhere between 10 and 20% of those people being radicalized. And you know, that is not in dispute. So they're bringing in millions of people, so you can imagine the number of radicalized fanatics that are coming in with the regular immigrants that are kind of just looking for a great place to live. And Germany is a great place, as is France. The problem is that those kind of larger percentages of people are then marginalized by the more outspoken, more aggressive, more fanatical groups that are being radicalized, looking for an opportunity to conduct jihad wherever they are. So I was in Germany, in Berlin, and I was wearing a shirt that had this really cool Arabic symbol for the letter N. And ISIS at the time was kind of going around, and if they found people that they didn't like, they would paint that letter on people's doors. And it was a symbol for Nazarene. Kind of like how, here we are back to the Nazis. Remember the Nazis used to make Jews wear like the gold star, and they'd write like Judea on the door frame of a Jew-owned business so that people wouldn't go inside of it. It was kind of like the same approach, but it's now just 75 years later and people are still doing it. So a lot of barrel-chested freedom fighters kind of latched onto the idea of, okay, if you're going to paint this on doors of people that you're going to come back and try to kill, rape, and murder, we're just going to put it on our own door. And then we're going to put it on shirts, and then we're going to put it on hats, and then we're going to walk around and try to encourage and entice you to have the balls to not kick in a door of a 60-year-old woman that's living by herself, or a single mother with her child, or all the other pathetic, impudent things that ISIS do. Instead, like it's on Tim Kennedy. And so I was walking around in Berlin, and this group of guys saw my shirt, and they realized the intent of why I was wearing it. They followed me onto the subway, and they followed me off the subway onto an L. And then I was, it was super obvious because they're not very clever. What was, they're looking for an opportunity where there's just kind of us and them. So I got off near kind of the Berlin Wall, downtown tourist area, and they got off with me. And we're in front of a restaurant, and they were kind of getting closer. I stopped, I turned around, and I just kind of confronted them. And there was a language barrier, which was really unfortunate because I was saying some things I thought was super, super clever. But again, they had these tiny little testicles that just couldn't get the guts, the moxie, the intestinal fortitude, we call it in the military, to step up and actually do something. So the three of them kind of just cowered after I got in their face, and they smelled bad too. in their they really need to work on their personal hygiene. And then they walked away like the scurry little cowards and cockroaches that they are. And I, yet again, was left blue-balled and disappointed. Story of my life.
You just can't get your release, Tim. I almost feel for you. I'm wondering, like, you know, it obviously, every time we go onto Instagram, every time we go see on your Twitter, like, you're having tons of fun, you're doing cool shit, you're shooting guns, you're filming TV shows, you know, you're scaring ISIS, teaching seminars, you're traveling the world. Do you miss MMA at all? Because it almost looks like you're having more fun in retirement.
Oh, no. I miss MMA zero. My brain misses MMA like zilch, nada, like not a bit, not even like a scooch, like a scrape. What is it? The pepper and salt guy that would like salt his steaks off his forearm, like Salt Bay. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
the Turkish guy. I only know him as Salt Bay. I don't know his actual name.
Yeah, whatever his name is. I'm not even talking like a grain of salt was released from his forearm and bounced onto that piece of meat. And not even that much. That's how much I miss him. So I still train. You know, I still train. Today I trained 3 times. Yesterday I trained 3 times. Tomorrow I'm going to train 2 times. You know, Ben Askren was in town, and he's getting ready for a fight, so I got to help him yesterday. We wrestled for like 20 minutes, which sucks because he's kind of a good wrestler. And so, man, no, I don't miss it at all.
Of course, the cliche question here, Tim, is, well, you don't really miss it, but do you think there's going to be an opportunity that you might miss it one day in the future and we might see you make possibly a comeback for 1 more, 2 more fights?
I mean, it really does chap my hide that Michael Bisping's the champion.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like a burr that you just can't get out, like a splinter that's underneath your fingernail and you just can't get to it. Or, you know, like when you get a whiff of something, like you scratch something with your finger and then you smell it and you're like, oh, man, that stunk. But then you smell it again.
Yeah.
That's what it's like with Michael Bisping being the champion, where it's irritating and it kind of stinks and it kind of hurts, you know, but not in a way like you have chlamydia for a year. More like, you know, just a UTI the next day. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that guy. You know, he's fighting George St. Pierre. He's been retired for like, 13 years or something. And, you know, then he fought like a 50-year-old man before that. I can't even keep track of the nonsensical title defenses that he's had. You know, he hasn't fought a contender yet since he beat Luke Rockhold, which was fantastic. I don't want to take that from him because that was brilliant. But man, Michael Bisping's the champion right now. Like, I just can't say that out loud without cringing.
I think a lot of people have sort of been frustrated with what's been going on over the last, you know, almost year or so with the middleweight division. I imagine it'd be frustrating for you as well. But I'm just wondering, sort of, I wanted to pick your brain. You know, 217's coming up, GSP versus Bisping. I'm curious, did you ever train with the GSP back in Jackson Winklejohns? And what do you remember from those trainings if you guys did train together?
Dude, guy's legit. He's really good. You know, he's kind of good at everything. Like, he's a talented athlete. He's an amazing wrestler. He's a great boxer. His jiu-jitsu's sick. His conditioning's good. He has like the singularity, like the singular focus that very few athletes have, especially in this sport. You know, I guess like the Usain Bolts are just so talented and so good at running. Like, they just want to get good at running. But like MMA, you have to be good at so many different things. And then you have like hit and runs when you got coke and cash in your car, and then you're doing, you know, some marijuana and getting hit for that. And then Chael Sonnen's yelling at you, and then Fedor loses to like somebody you can't even, you know, it's like, it's super distracting. That's the sport of MMA. And then all of a sudden in Japan, they like do a WWE like fight with no rules, and somebody's wearing a clown mask and you just don't even know what's going on. But GSP is focused, and he's always been that way. And he's always been such a superb, disciplined guy that even with his long layout, with the late layoff, he's still GSP, you know? And so, I don't know.
Do you think he can beat Bisping? Do you think, like, who do you think in this matchup has the advantage? Because obviously you know a lot about Bisping. Do you think there's a chance that he retains his title here, or are you backing GSP here in his middleweight debut?
This is a tough middleweight debut. Bisping is deceiving, even though he looks like he's built like a tall, chubby girl. He is deceivingly strong, but not like the athletic, explosive Yoel Romero strong that can't get off a stool, but more like the strong that is just kind of grinding. You know, there's this just permanent presence. When you grab him in a takedown, he's hard to struggle down, and when you get him down, it's hard to keep him there. You know, he hits like he has pillows on his fists, but he hits you so many times that you're like, oh man, this sucks. So for GSP, it's going to be hard to score takedowns. I don't think he's good enough to outbox or outkickbox him. You know, so stylistically, it's a problematic fight for GSP, and then you add in the weight and the long layoff. It's a scary fight for GSP to come back.
It's a really tough one. Tim, there's one more thing we got to cover with you, obviously, while we're talking about MMA, and that is, of course, the MMAAA, the MMA Athletes Association. Obviously, something huge last year, and you were, in many ways, the face of it. Can you tell us what is the latest? Is it still going forward? Because we haven't heard any updates in quite a while.
Yeah, we're perseverant, you know, resilient.
So it's still going on, because I think a lot of people thought maybe it's sort of done. It's still going.
It's still going, and it's, as you can imagine, especially dealing with IMG and UFC and Dana, it's not just an easy thing that just happens. So we are struggling through the process and doing all the right things and trying to make all of the right decisions. And man, they're hard.
Do you guys, sorry to cut in there, Dennis, do you feel like you guys are at least getting somewhere? Because it seems like it's sort of an uphill battle, but do you feel like you guys are making progress?
It's always been an uphill battle, and we are. You know, the need is there. You know, like I just read an article this week about how we're at a point where maybe fighters and athletes don't even need managers, and I think Ben Folks wrote it, and that scares the crap out of me. Where we're at a point where athletes are so completely controlled and their income is so dictated to them that they don't even need representation anymore. You know, they are just at the whims of the promotion, and that is frightening. That you know, you can't really have sponsors anymore in the cage unless it's UFC sponsor, and they're taking 90% of the revenue. And the money that you're going to make in the fight is going to be dictated. There's no negotiation unless you have some amazing card up your sleeve like Connor that has a trick every time. But it's scary, man. I don't know. It needs to happen, and it has to happen. And but man, it is a fight.
Of course, yeah, and it's super difficult. And you're obviously a very, very busy guy. You're traveling all over the world. Have you been able to speak to anyone else in the association, and do you know when we might hear an update in the near future?
So I talked to, as you can imagine, hundreds of athletes contact me. That seems like every month. And with like a pleading, imploring, like what is happening, how can this move forward? And it's not just as simple as, okay, we have the majority of the roster signed to us, so this is what we're going to do. It's not that simple. It takes, just the strategic planning of making one press announcement, because if you say one wrong thing, everything can be lost. And the thing that can be lost is an opportunity for these athletes to be protected. So it's a big thing.
And you mentioned the amount of people contacting you. I remember when we were in New York and this whole thing was happening and you were taking phone calls then. We imagine, that must be a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. If you had to look at a percentage of the UFC roster, what percentage do you think has signed up to the association thus far?
I think 60% of the roster is directly talking to us.
Wow. Wow, well that's great. And I mean, I know you mentioned that getting the next update, you got to do it right because you don't want to say the wrong thing and cost a lot of these athletes an opportunity. Does that have anything to do with when you guys first made the announcement and the negativity with Bjorn Rebney being a part of it and that sort of taking away from the fact that you guys made the announcement? Is that why you guys are a lot more careful about putting together the next sort of update, make sure everything is planned out perfectly before it's made?
Absolutely. The first update was, or the first announcement was with the best intention, but poorly thought through. And we took a lot of hits for how we did it, where we did it, when we did it, who was part of it, and those are mistakes we can't afford to make.
All right, well, Tim, we really appreciate your time. We don't want to be too greedy, and I feel like we already have been. As we let you go, is there anything that you want to get out there? Not necessarily an announcement, but is there while you've got the platform, is there any message that you want to send to the fighters while you're sort of, fighting this battle?
You're not alone. There are hundreds of other people like you that are struggling both economically and physically. And that there's people like me that have your best interest in mind, and we're trying to figure out, what the best solution is. And I'm not one that just kind of quits, so I'm gonna just keep working at it.
All right, well, there you go, guys. It's great to hear that, obviously, the battle is still going on, and we wish you nothing but the best, obviously, for the fighters, for the sport of MMA. Guys, don't forget to follow him on Twitter, at Instagram, at Tim Kennedy MMA. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great videos, a lot of great action. Tim, we honestly could speak to you all day, and I feel like we're always greedy with your time, so we really appreciate you coming back on the show, and, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Anytime.
Hey, this is Jimmy Manuel. You listen to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Joining us here on the program is a man that you know well. He's just spent last weekend over at KSW taking care of business with a team from Severe MMA. You can see his amazing work on Sherdog, and of course, make sure to follow him on Twitter because his tweets are hilarious. We have a friend over the program, Sean Sheehan, joining us very late from Ireland on the program. Sean, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
What's up, boys? Nice to be on. Yeah, it was a mad weekend of action at KSW, especially, and the UFC as well. And it's just a busy period of MMA now, isn't it? It's just going to be mad from here until Christmas.
Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, KSW coming to Dublin, that's pretty crazy. We hear a lot of great things about KSW. People talk about how popular it is over there in Dublin event this past weekend. We saw you were there. There was a very nice crew photo of Severe MMA. It was a little bit like Straight Outta Compton, except a lot more slick back hair in the photo. What was that experience like, Sean? What was it like being there this past weekend?
It was a pretty amazing night, to be honest. He was in the same arena where the McGregor Brandao show was, which was one of the most insane shows in UFC history, for a lot of people. And I never thought anything could come close to it. I wouldn't say it came closer, but it was really, really, really insane. Coming up to it, there's a big Polish community in Ireland. I think other than Irish, Polish is the biggest nationality in Ireland. So
wow.
that tells you even like more than English and everything. So it's absolutely huge. And everyone coming up to the card thought, it might be 50-50 Polish people. KSW is huge, a lot of Polish guys on the card. It was at least 80% Polish in the arena, I'd say.
Wow.
Walking in, usually when I'm walking into arena, I might have a few lads talk to that I know around the place and stuff, and this was just like all Polish voices and stuff coming up. It felt very weird. And afterwards as well, it was like all Polish voices. All the Irish guys were getting booed when they came out. All the Polish guys were getting huge cheers. There was huge crowd chants going on. There was one guy when Norman Park was fighting. He was a Northern Irish guy, and you could hear him roaring abuse. And like a big fight broke out. All Polish guys attacking him. It was like a huge fight in the arena.
Was that the one they showed on TV? Because I remember they cut to a fight, and I'm thinking like, why are they showing this fight on the broadcast?
I don't know, actually. I haven't seen the broadcast back yet, anyway, but the armed Gardaí were called, the police, and they were all like lining up for something to happen. But thankfully, it kind of calmed down a bit after that before Pudzianowski came out. But it was a weird scene, and it was just unbelievable. Like the crowd, that's the crowd. But if you looked at it, like the production and everything, they had these huge screens up, these 3 big screens behind the cage. They had like scaffolding where all the fighters came out. I think it was 12 fighters. They all the main card fighters, we'll say, came out and stood in it. It was just the lighting, they brought guys in and squared them off in the cage and stuff. The walkouts, everything. It was like no other show. Obviously there's been UFC shows and Bellator, Obama, Cage Warriors and everything like that in that arena, but nothing like this. I've never seen anything like this by the ways of production or anything. I couldn't be more impressed, to be honest, in what KSW brought.
KSW, like their production's always been really, really good. People always reminisce how, it's very similar to Pride, but like even for this one, I feel like it got even better. Like watching it on TV, it just looked so good. What do you prefer, Sean? Like obviously the UFC's production, like on TV, broadcast wise, it's fantastic, but in the arena, it's somewhat basic. There's no big screen, there's no insane entrances, and KSW and like Pride and some of the old stuff, it's just so fun, and obviously Bellator do that a lot. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I prefer KSW 100%. I think, like, for me personally, I'm someone who kind of, I don't go there to interview people or to, produce content that way. I go there to look at the fights and then come out afterwards and break down the fights or give like a running, synopsis of what's going on in the fight. And for me, I'm actually better off sitting at home watching it. It's way better view. It's tough to actually sit there and see the little intricacies, little punches and things. But even for me, like being there, I go for to get stuff out on the website, obviously, and stuff, but to take in the atmosphere so I can come on and talk about it afterwards. And for me, the atmosphere in that was second to none. It was unbelievable. And looking at it, if you're looking at it a fan's point of view, if you want to go to a show for, the enjoyment of it, to get pissed up and watch a few fights with a few beers, KSW is the best, I think, that I've experienced anyway. They make the show just so much better. On TV, I think it's hard to understand it. Like, I've watched KSW shows before, and this one was definitely bigger, all right, I'd say, in terms of production, but they've always done good things with other Pride and, Ryzen and Bellator even have done it as well. And you don't really get a feel for it when you're watching it on TV or over the internet, but when you're actually there, it's mad. From the kind of second one, they brought it really strong, and it just made like the night way more enjoyable. You're kind of a lot of us were sitting there and pressed on, PC Carla, a lot of people sitting inside me, and we were both like, this is just the maddest thing I've ever seen. And it was really enjoyable to be there. I'd love to go to another one of their shows, to be honest, because it was really good.
And it's interesting that you say that, because obviously we've all been to quite a lot of UFC events, and it's kind of one of those things where it's pretty much the same packages. Even at UFC 200, they had like the yellow canvas and that weird robe thing around it, but it wasn't. And maybe Bruce Buffer changing his clothes was like one of the biggest like highlights for people visually, but it's pretty much the same thing. And especially when you have these smaller fight night cards like the one that's coming up at Sydney, it almost feels like a house show for the WWE at times, because it's like they don't really go out of their way at all to make anything too special for the local fans who are there. So it's great to hear that about KSW. And we've heard about how popular KSW is in Europe and in Poland, and just going on some of these fighters' social media accounts, seeing the amount of likes they have, the fact that, one of the fighters from KSW decided to stick with KSW and not go over to the UFC. Where is KSW in your mind, Sean, when it comes to UFC's popularity in places like Poland, in other areas around Europe? Do you think there's a really real possibility that KSW can slowly take over Europe and, take over the UFC's territory little by little?
Yeah, well, in Poland, 100%. I think it's running the show in Poland. And you could, like, if you're sitting in that arena, you can tell, by the amount of people, you wouldn't get a ruckus show like that. I know the UFC show sold pretty well. I think there was 11,000 people and stuff in it, but I think the same show in Poland would have been a lot more. The thing about the UFC in Europe is, and I've written about this multiple times for Sherdog and Severe May, different places, when they come to Europe, and you guys will know it in Australia as well, although a little bit less so, but they bring terrible fights to and fight nights and events to Europe. Like, we get terrible, just rubbish. Like, like I at the weekend, I actually wrote about this last week. Like, Poland got Donald Cerrone against Darren Till because of what's going on with KSW and in Poland, because they're forcing the UFC to try to make an effort. You know, Kowalkiewicz was brought back to be on that card. You know, Artem Lobov against Fili was on a very good fight, and you know, a few more good fights as well. And I think they kind of forced them to do that. But when you see promotions like KSW, they bring it. Like, they had Pujanowski, who's obviously their big star. You know, he's not beating, as I said, he's not beating Steve Miocic anytime soon. But they had Gamrot against Norman Park, very good fight. Michael Materla against Paulo Thiago. You know, they had Paul Redmond, ex-UFC guy, who's a big draw in Dublin. Chris Fields as well, the ex-Cage Warriors champion. You know, they had a little. You're getting the best of what they have when you go to see them. When you go to see the UFC, okay, you're getting maybe the best 2 fighters in Ireland, possibly on the. Well, you're not actually, because Conor McGregor's not on it. But maybe you're getting the number 2 and 3 guy in Ireland, and then you're getting maybe a good English fighter, and that's it. You know, you're kind of. It's a little bit disappointing because maybe okay, the quality in general might be similar or better, but the difference between the top fighter in the UFC and what we're getting in Ireland or in the UK or in Europe on our cards is 100 times different to what we're getting with the KSW cards or with other promotions in Europe. So I think that gives them an advantage. And I've spoken about Bellator an awful lot as well. They haven't been doing that. They've done it a little bit. They have obviously brought over Paul Daly and things like that. In Ireland, they haven't really done it yet. You know, they had James Gallagher on the upcoming card in Ireland in 2 weeks, and obviously he got injured. Then it's AJ McKeegan's Brian Moore. You know, not the big names that people want here. And there's definitely a gap in the market here for people to grow. The UFC have not done it. They have just given bottom of the barrel cards for the most part here. Bellator have done it a little bit, but not in Ireland strong enough. In England, they have done it definitely a little bit better, but I think they can grow. But I definitely do think there is that gap in the market, and there's a lot of Polish people around England, Ireland, you know, in Poland as well, obviously, and around different parts of Europe. And I think KSW are in prime position to take that part of the market and make it their own.
It's an interesting situation because, like, and I can understand that because we get a lot of people here in Australia tweeting us and messaging us, and people that are diehard fans who are like, look, I've attended every single live UFC show that's ever been in Australia, and they're like, we're not going to UFC Sydney because we don't like the card, we're not satisfied with it. And it's like, you know, I get it. I think it's strong on local talent, but I don't know, it's almost like the UFC kind of misses the boat because as much as we love Aussies, I feel like a lot of people would love to see, you know, the Aussies fighting, you know, on TV in Vegas. And then when the UFC, you know, the big show comes from, you know, America, bring some international fighters, bring some people that, you know, that don't live here, that, you know, we don't really get a chance to see. And I imagine it's very much the same, you know, in Europe. But here's the interesting thing, you know, and obviously, you know, Conor McGregor's been championing MMA for you know, for Ireland and for Europe, and before that you had Michael Bisping. And this weekend, even though maybe it wasn't, you know, the biggest show of the weekend compared to KSW, we did have UFC Gdansk, and we did see Darren Till emerge as, you know, people are talking about him as potentially the future. Do you think he's a guy that can sort of not so much bring interest back in Europe because there is interest, but do you think he's a guy that can maybe sort of fly the flag and kind of take over for Michael Bisping as, you know, the guy from the UK that's going to be sort of the poster boy for the UFC and maybe win back a lot of those UK fans that the UFC may have alienated a bit?
It's tough just because that division is just so tough. You know, we've spoken about it here with the, you know, after the likes of Gunnar Nelson, Ponzinibbio, you know, look how good Ponzinibbio is. Kamaru Usman, you know, Wonderboy Thompson, Damian Maia, Colby Covington is this weekend. It's going to be tough. Look, for me, Darren Till, it's hard to be sure about someone like Darren Till after, you know, before Saturday night, we'll say, because, you know, he 3 fights in the UFC, looked impressive, looked good, but it's hard to see if he's going to be able to take that step up. Now we saw it, and he can. You know, Cowboy Cerrone is a very, very good fighter, but I think there's still another step up to take from the Cowboy Cerrone, you know, to that level of a Wonderboy, El Robbie Lawler or Tyron Woodley. So that's going to be big for him. Can he? Will he? Maybe. I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, I look at a guy like Mark Diakese, and I think, you know, he is a guy that could do that. Now, he lost his last fight as well, but I think he's a guy that's going to get there in the future. You know, there's a lot. If you're looking, you know, at Europe alone, you have the likes of Diakese, you have the likes of Darren Till, you have Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you have Kowalkiewicz, obviously you have Gustafsson, Conor McGregor. It's pretty strong in Europe at the moment. Like, it's I don't think it's ever been stronger maybe than it is right about now. But for Darren Till, I think the big thing with Darren Till is he's from Liverpool, you know, and as people know, I hate Liverpool because I'm a Man United fan, but Liverpool get behind their people. They do it, you know, you can't deny it. Their Liverpool FC soccer team is absolutely brilliantly followed, as much as I hate to say it. Everton is, you know, the likes of Tony Bellew, you know, a huge fighter. They follow him all, you know, wherever he's fighting. He's another pay-per-view coming up. Paddy Pimblett, we saw him. He sold out the Echo Arena, and Chris Fishgold as well. They've actually fight. I think it's this weekend as well. Cage Warriors is coming up. So it's Liverpool people follow them their own, and if he can get a big show in Liverpool, you know, that could become a home base for them. Like a guy like Mark Hunt obviously has become in Australia and New Zealand, you know, or like, you know, Alexander Gustafsson did in Sweden. He had how many shows? 2 or 3 shows maybe on there. I think he could do a similar thing in Europe, and in Liverpool, and that could bring him to a next level in England, and it could bring him to a next level, you know, in Europe and into, you know, into the UFC as he gets to the very top again. So, you know, I always talk about stars, and it's very hard to build superstars, but I think there's an ability to build stars locally, and you've seen that with McGregor, although he's obviously gone, you know, a lot more and a lot bigger. You've seen it with Gustafsson, and I definitely think Liverpool is a prime place to do it, and Darren Till is a prime man as well to lead that forward, because, as I said, you have Pimblett, you have Fishgold, you have other guys there as well that can come in behind him. So, you know, that could be an interesting thing to look at going forward.
And I mean, we want to get your thoughts on Donald Cerrone in a second, but as for what's next for Till, I mean, it looks like the top of the division is taken up. There's a lot of fights happening, one this weekend, but do you have any idea who you'd like to see him fight next in building this, I suppose, meteoric rise to becoming a big star?
It's kind of tough because, you know, everyone is booked. Robbie Lawler, Stephen Thompson, Demian Maia, Arhem Masvidal, Dos Anjos, Condit, Covington. Everyone above him is booked. Tyron Woodley obviously not, but he's injured at the moment. So I'm looking at that Maia Covington fight this weekend.
Wow. And
maybe the winner of that could be the next guy. I think both of them would probably beat Darren Till at this stage, unfortunately, for him. I think they're both tough matchups for him. You know, we saw Donald Cerrone take him down a couple of times, and I think it was his size and his strength that really got him up, although his technique was very good. He stopped a few takedowns as well, but you look at a guy like Demian Maia, if he was to get him down like that, I think it'd be very difficult. But for me, I think that's probably what will happen, just because timing and just because other people are kind of matched up. But I'd love to see him fight the winner of Wonderboy versus Masvidal. I think that'd be a brilliant fight. I don't think Wonderboy is getting another title fight anytime soon after, you know, drawing the first one and obviously losing the second controversially. I thought he won it personally, but I think Wonderboy wins that fight, and I think Till would be a perfect matchup for Wonderboy. Till even called him out kind of today online. I think that one makes sense and would be the best fight. But there's, you know, as I said, there's so many people booked, there's so many fights coming up that it could fall anyway, and it's a very, very hard one to call, to be honest.
Wow, stylistically, that is a sexy treat of a fight. Wonderboy Thompson versus Darren Till. I want to throw something else at you though, and I'm completely stealing from, I believe it was Jeremy Botter here wrote a great article. I think it was Jeremy Botter.
That prick, sure, it's grand to steal from him. Sure, he probably stole it from someone else anyway.
That old sandbag, son of a bitch. But yeah, like he was saying, like, obviously, you know, Darren Till and Mike Perry, they had that sort of not really altercation, but you know, they sort of yelled at each other, and you know, Till sort of said on the MMA that like he doesn't really care about Mike Perry, but Botter was saying like, Till's got that star factor. He's the flavor of the month. And, you know, there's a bit of a, I guess, rivalry between him and Perry. And like you mentioned, a lot of the top guys, they might beat Till. He's still very young. So why not give him Mike Perry, a guy that, is he at the top of the division? No. Is he the most skilled guy in the division? No, not necessarily. But he's a name. He is quite loud and he gets attention. And it might sort of be a really good sort of layup for Till to get a win over a guy who brings a lot of attention, and it can sort of build his name. What do you think about that?
The thing about that is they're already doing that, I think, with Santiago Ponzinibbio, because, you know, he went in there, he beat Gunnar Nelson, who's currently ranked number 13, I think, but he was close enough to the top 10 before, and now he's fighting a non-ranked guy in Mike Perry. Darren Till just beat Cowboy, who was ranked 6 or 7 in the division, and now he's going to fight a non-ranked guy as well. I don't know. It's just that's the weird thing. You have to be moving up. See, that's the danger as well with fighting a guy ranked so highly, that when you beat him, it's going to be hard to take a step up from there, you know, unless there is someone available waiting to fight you. Look, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think when Till wins that fight, your idea of giving Mike Perry to someone as a layup, I think that's a good idea, because I think Mike Perry is a very, very he's a good fighter, but he's like, people talk about him being a UFC champion. I would be very, very, very surprised if he's ever a UFC champion. You know, I think he's going to take the Diego Sanchez route, having really, really fun fights, but after Diego Sanchez came out of the title picture, to be honest, I think that's where he's going, and I think Till would beat him. You know, I think Ponzinibbio will beat him as well. But there's lots of good fights there for him, and that's in a good position, because this welterweight division, it's there for the taking, really. With Tyron Woodley out now, he's going to be out for a few months, I believe. If Till was to go in there and let's say if he fought Wonderboy, or if he fought Mike Perry, another big first round knockout, that could be huge, because we've seen the Robbie Lawler fight, as I said, you know, we've seen the Wonderboy fight, we've seen the Maia fight. Masvidal, I don't think he's done enough yet. There is definitely, you know, it's there for that take in that next title shot, and someone is going to go in there and they're going to take it, and that could be Darren Till, you know. But you know, it's interesting to see over the next couple of months.
It's exciting times, but let's look to the other side of the coin in Cowboy Cerrone. He's coming off another loss, and it was a pretty brutal one. We know he's a slow starter, but what do you think's going on with the Cowboy right now, Sean? Is it just a case of bad luck, him being a slow starter, or are we seeing a decline right now?
I think he's too small for welterweight. I think it's a decline. I think Darren Till was just a lot better than him as a fighter. You know, Cowboy does tend to get hit and give up in fights. You know, that's happened over a long time, and I hate to be harsh on him, but that's just the fact of the matter, I think. But this time he didn't. I don't think he really did that. I think it was just a better fighter beat him on the night. You know, Cowboy, everyone that beats Cowboy, and we saw it back from Nate Diaz, you know, onwards, and all the fights he's had since, they box him up. They keep it on the feet. They use their hands. They kind of keep the legs out of it as much as they can, and they box him up. And that's exactly what Darren Till did. Put him under pressure, used his hands, was faster than him, which is another sign that maybe Cowboy is slowing down a little bit, and, you know, beat him that way. You know, Darren Till is, I think someone said he was 198 or something going into the octagon, which is absolutely huge. Yeah. You know, that's middleweight territory. Cowboy, was he over 180? I'm not sure he was. You know, he is if there was a 160, 165 on division, I think that'd be perfect for him. But I think there's a lot of factors. I also don't think he is the top echelon fighter. I don't think, you know, he ever had the quality to win a UFC championship. I definitely think he's a top 4 or 5 fighter in the world. Very, very good. But, you know, I think Till and him at the moment are on a similar, well, maybe Till, you know, Cerrone's at a very good level, and he was obviously he's gotten to a higher level than Till has. But I think at the moment with their trajectories, they're on a similar level, and, you know, it was a seesaw matchup. One's going to go up, one's going to go down, and, you know, for this time it was Till, and that usually is, you know, when we look at the history of MMA, when an up and coming guy beats an older guy, that's usually the sign of that older guy's time at the top is up. And, you know, unfortunately for Cowboy, I think that could be the case here.
The young lion sort of dethroning the old lion, and it kind of almost like these are sort of the questions going into this fight from the very beginning. People sort of saying, is the UFC trying to use Donald Cerrone to build Darren Till? And I'm not gonna lie, I thought Cerrone was going to beat him. Just going by Darren Till's record going into this fight, I thought Cerrone, it was going to be like another Miles Jury situation, you know, too much too soon. And man, Darren Till really took the opportunity to ran with it. And he kind of reminds me of Conor McGregor as well, Darren Till. And I don't say that in one of those ways where, like, you know, a lot of fans are like, oh, you know, he's trying to, like, this fight is trying to be Conor McGregor, that fight is trying to be Conor McGregor. I see people saying, like, oh, Michael Bisping's trash talking, he's trying to be Conor McGregor. And it's like, guys,
he's doing it 10 years before him.
Bisping's been doing Bisping for a very, very, very long time. But just his sort of, you know, demeanor when he speaks and he says, you know, I'm the fucking best and this and that. But he you know, the way Conor McGregor would say things like, you know, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. It's not trash talk. I'm just being honest. I'm being truthful. But with Darren Till, you know, it seems very, very genuine. So I'm really curious to see who he gets matched up with next, and, you know, what his sort of ceiling is, and, you know, obviously what's sort of laying in there in the future of for Cerrone, because like you mentioned, it doesn't seem like it's a UFC belt. It looks like he's just going to be having a bunch of fun fights. But let's look forward to this weekend. Obviously, we got UFC Fight Night Machida versus Brunson. Not the most stacked card, kind of like, you know, what we get in Australia, kind of like what you get in Europe, and kind of like what Brazil has been getting for years, you know, kind of okay card. But we do have the return of Lyoto Machida and, of course, Derek Brunson. Before that, we got Demian Maia versus Colby Covington. That's an excellent fight. What do you think about this one, Sean? How do you see this one playing out? Is this potentially the moment where a guy like Colby Covington, who obviously is a massive self-promoter, can have a similar effect that Darren Till have and, you know, upset the veteran in Maia?
Yeah, I don't think Colby Covington is going to be coming in fan favorite anytime soon, but it could be. I can't see this fight being a great fight, to be honest. I think it's a great matchup, and I think the purists will like it. Like I think I'm possibly going to enjoy this fight if it goes one way. Look, what you have here is an unbelievably good wrestler in Colby Covington against a guy who's learned a lot of wrestling and who has become a really, really, really good wrestler and is obviously top 2, maybe the best jiu-jitsu player in all of MMA today, you know, along with Jacare and a couple of other guys. So you look at that and you say, really good wrestler, really good jiu-jitsu player. This is going to be a stand-up fight for 15 minutes of kickboxing. You know, that's usually what happens in this situation. And I hope to God it doesn't happen, because that'll be absolutely terrible. Mm-hmm. But that's the way I think it'll play out, and I think Colby Covington will win it. If it doesn't play out that way, I think, you know, Demian Maia is really, really good. And if he gets on top in this fight once, I think it's over. I think he will submit Colby Covington, or he'll stay on top of him. And if usually when Demian Maia can get a guy down once, he can get him down again. And I think if that happens, you know, he will end up the fight. If he can get one takedown, I think it's Maia's fight. The thing about Maia is as well, when he can't get the takedown, sometimes he gets desperate enough, he tries to pull guard and stuff, but sometimes it ends up like the Woodley fight. It ends up like the Anderson Silva fight, where he runs out of ideas and he can't do it. I could see that happening against Colby Covington. I could also see Colby taking him down and laying on top of him for long periods. You know, Colby's very good. He's very, you know, sometimes guys like that, they protect themselves with jiu-jitsu. We saw like Alan Belcher against Husimar Palhares years ago, where he, you know, kind of out jiu-jitsu the jiu-jitsu guy. Colby Covington's not stupid enough to think he can do that to Maia, but I think he can out-wrestle, you know, out-top game him by just being really, really, you know, hard on top, being like concrete on top of him and winning that way. But, you know, if this fight is a difficult one, because, look, I just think it's going to be that stand-up, boring 15-minute kickboxing match, unfortunately. And if it goes to the ground and if Demian might get a few scrambles, I think he can win. But it's, you know, I would lean Covington. I definitely wouldn't rule Maia out. I think it's probably a 50-50 kind of fight in that way. But yeah, it could be terrible or it could be okay. But I don't think it's going to be great.
And if you're the UFC, you definitely want to see Covington go out there and get this win over Maia and sort of grow his star value. But mentally speaking, I'm curious to see what kind of Maia we see going in there as well, especially after UFC 214 and the flack that he got for that last fight. I wonder if there's going to be a fight up Maia here, and if he realizes the UFC is sort of trying to use his name to grow another star as well. So it's going to be an interesting one to see exactly who comes out on top. And I'm guessing the UFC don't want Maia to make his way all the way up the rankings to #1 contender, because I don't see him getting another title shot probably ever, so we'll see what happens there. But let's talk about the main event, because a lot of people are really excited to see Lyoto Machida return to the UFC. It's almost like people forgot that Lyoto existed, and now he's back, and the middleweight division is all over the place, and it looks like there's going to be another piece of the puzzle back in action there. Of course, Derek Brunson, though, is a very, very dangerous guy, and a dangerous guy to have on a return after such a long layoff. How are you looking at this matchup, Sean, in terms of what kind of Lyoto Machida we'll see all this time later after the suspension? And do you think he can get it done against Brunson, who is still a very, very dangerous fighter?
I'm really, really torn on this one. Like, I think if Lyoto Machida fought 4 months ago, Derek Brunson fought 4 months ago, I'd pick Lyoto Machida all day. But, you know, it's June 27, 2015 since Machida last fought. He must be touching on 40 years of age at this stage. Is he getting up, you know, definitely getting up towards that anyway? And it's going to be tough to come up from that sort of a layoff against a guy like Derek Brunson, who hits very hard, who is kind of a well-rounded guy, who can wrestle as well as punch and everything like that. Like if you look at Lyoto Machida's he's passed. He's made a history out of kind of beating wrestle boxer guys like Mark Munoz, like Dan Henderson, like Ryan Bader, like, Rashad Evans back in the day even. Derek Brunson is that, and I don't think he's as good as most of those guys. So, like on paper, if 100% Lyoto Machida comes out there, 100% Derek Brunson comes out there, I think Lyoto Machida wins that all day. But I don't. How can that be 100% Lyoto Machida? Ring rust is a real thing. As much as Dominic Cruz wants to say it isn't, and for a guy as unbelievable as him, maybe it isn't, and as mentally strong as him, maybe it isn't. And Lyoto Machida, was a great fighter as well, very mentally strong as well. So maybe not. But working with logic, I'm just leaning towards Brunson here, but it's really, really a tough one. It's grand if you're picking to pick a fight like Covington and Maia, you can put, add them all together and pick out which one you're going to win, because you kind of know how they fight, which way the fight will go. For this, it's very tough to know how the fight will go, because it's tough to know how Machida is actually going to look. So I have to lean Brunson that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if Machida won it, but it's going to be difficult for him.
I fully agree. Like you mentioned, like Lyoto Machida, like you said, he made a career out of just being patient and countering these guys, who had inferior striking. But because of this layoff, and here's the other thing. His style is based so much around speed and timing. And not only is he potentially going to be suffering from cage rust, but he's so much older. And we see guys who sort of rely on speed and timing, they're the first to those are the first things to decline. And those are the guys who, end up really sort of looking rough at the end. So how much do you think you can really take away from, the Lyoto Machida that we see in this fight? If he goes in there and his timing is off, he's suffering from cage rust, and Brunson just brutally knocks him out and destroys him, do you think we can take a lot of that, or do you think he sort of gets a bit of a pass because of the fact that he's been out for so long? If he does lose in bad fashion, do you think sort of, the writing's on the wall in that sense?
Yeah, I think you'd be willing to give him one more. I don't think you'd be cutting him or anything and writing him off just yet, but I definitely think you'd give him one more fight just to see can he knock off that cage rust. It could go like a guy like Rashad Evans who had kind of a similar layoff, obviously not for drugs or anything like that, but because of injury, and he came back, didn't really look the same, and now he's in that position. Lyoto is coming off 2 losses to Yoel Romero and Luke Rockhold. No shame in that. But we'll say 4 fights ago was his title fight against Chris Weidman, and that was 2014. But that fight, I thought that fight was a lot closer than a lot of people said. And Lyoto came on good in that. So he's still only 4 fights away from that. So it's tough. It's tough to write him off so far. But I think your point there about him being based on speed and getting up, to 40 years of age after 2 years off. That's a brilliant point, because if that speed isn't there, he's gone. He can't rediscover what his brilliance anymore, because it's a guy like in rugby or soccer or whatever, you have a fast winger, and if they're not fast anymore, they're finished. That's them gone. And if Lyoto Machida's speed is gone, even if you look at like a guy like Brunson, he uses his speed an awful lot, and his power to land those big shots, but he can maybe rely on his wrestling or something like that behind it. Not with Machida, he doesn't really have that wrestling. I know he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but you're not going to see Lyoto Machida submitting anyone like that, I don't think. And if that speed is gone, I know he's a smart guy as well, but it's going to be very, very tough for him to mount any sort of run at the title or the top 10 in that division.
And Brunson on a bit of a world tour, first in Melbourne last year, now in Brazil. Yeah, he's like he's on one of those world tour schedules, and it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be. I'm looking forward to watching those 2 fights in particular, but we saw what happened to Donald Cerrone the past weekend. Like you mentioned, Rashad Evans, BJ Penn, a lot of these guys were sort of watching their decline. And as someone that used to be a big fan of Lyoto Machida, especially during his prime, it might be a tough weekend for a lot of fans out there that are expecting to see the same Lyoto Machida that they saw back when he was champion. So who knows? He's got a great set of hair, so maybe the hair dictates how slowly you go down. Because don't forget, BJ Penn had no hair. Rashad Evans, what's going on there with the hair?
No hair, yeah.
Donald Cerrone, is he going bald? We don't know.
Tried the hair, but didn't work.
That's right. Tim Kennedy, we had him on the show. He's a great guy, but he admitted there's some, hair issues going on there, and that didn't quite work out. GSP, maybe that's why they shave their hair. Maybe they don't want to give it away, but maybe that's the big factor in.
You know that people have forgotten about Lyoto Machida's Head and Shoulders sponsorship. I saw on our Holly Holm video from UFC 193. Dennis, you did that interview, great interview. You mentioned some kind of joke about like, why does Holly Holm not have the Head and Shoulders sponsorship, and why does Lyoto Machida? And people in the comment section were like, why are you talking about Lyoto Machida's hair? He's never known for his hair. So they've already forgotten. They've already forgotten about the luscious.
I know. It's like I was talking to someone recently, and I asked if they watch The Simpsons, and they said no, but they watch Family Guy. And
Jesus Christ.
obviously, after I was done burying that person's body in the desert, I realized, man, things are really changing around here. But yeah, unbelievable stuff there. Now, Sean, we really appreciate your time. We know it's getting late there, and just want to remind everybody to follow Sean on Twitter at Sean Sheehan BA. Obviously, gold, and also make sure to listen to Severe MMA. It's one of the best podcasts out there today. If you're a fan of Submission Radio, love Severe MMA, Sean and whoever the guest host is that week, absolutely destroy it. And it's an absolutely fantastic listen. There's the new logo that we spoke about a couple of weeks back. That's really making splashes around the world. But quickly, as we wrap up, Sean, you mentioned that you'll be playing a little bit of FIFA now that it's late at night. Roughly lay out the skill set here in FIFA, because I know there's a lot of FIFA fans and a lot of skilled FIFA players listening to this program. Are you putting yourself sort of in the top 10 at least when it comes to FIFA?
Is that in MMA media or just in MMA general?
Well, in the world, clearly. That's what
I feel like MMA media. Do we have a lot of people playing video games in MMA? Me and Casper play video games. I know a lot of people have like kids and families and houses and cars and like lives.
But we don't have any of that. We
Hawani
just have our games.
playing video games, or like Luke Thomas. I don't think Luke Thomas has the patience for like an online game of FIFA. I'm not sure.
I reckon I'd beat anyone in the world in FIFA and from the MMA media. I reckon I'm putting that out there now. Challenge me. Come on, I'm here. Knock me off my farts.
You're going full Darren Till on us. I'm the fucking best FIFA player in the world. I fucking know it.
Well, you know what? We're going to have to get this going, because I know there'll probably be a few people out there that are going to want to challenge you. So the challenge is out there, guys. Sean Sheehan, FIFA challenge on the line. What stakes are we talking about, Sean? Because I'm thinking
hair versus hair match.
Beat them. Hair versus hair match.
No, my hair is too precious. I'm not putting my hair in the line. No way. The most beautiful hair in MMA media as well, by far. So let's be honest here. Just lead the way here.
He's got nice hair as well. Mike Dice, it's ginger though, so it doesn't count. Let's talk about the stakes though. What can you offer for whoever takes on the challenge?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe you admit that they're the greatest FIFA player on Severe MMA, and if you beat them, they got to tweet it out if they don't have a worldwide phenomenon podcast like yourself.
Okay, well, if they can produce it, like they can do that. They're well able to do that. Yeah, I'll advertise their podcast on my podcast if they beat me. That's fair enough.
I was going to suggest like a tattoo bet, but yeah, maybe this is a bit more.
John Anik, let's get John Anik on this. He was on the show a couple of weeks back. I reckon he'd be keen.
He's a gambler. He'll bet his whole family on it. It's like I know I can win.
He's a Man City fan. Talking to John Anik, we were very close to him doing a tattoo bet with us. I was just very careful because my skin is silky and milky, and I don't know how a tattoo would look on it. But quickly, my update when it comes to games, guys, I got the mini Super Nintendo, which drawback, you only get a small amount of games, and then you do get that thing where you're like, why am I playing this when I have like a PlayStation 4 and games that aren't like just really, really basic? So that didn't work out. And then I've been playing Destiny 2 online, and it's pretty shit as well. So that's just my update. Casper, you got any update when it comes to online games?
I'm kind of like I don't have the time for story games anymore. Like the last good story game I played was The Last of Us, and that's really, really good. Oh, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out like at some point, so I'll get on that and probably waste a lot of my life on that. Other than that, I still really like playing EA UFC 2. I really, really enjoy it. There's a new one coming out at the start of next year, and at the moment I'm not playing anything because I smashed my controller a few weeks ago. It's the second one. I lost, and I was angry. I wasn't angry that I lost. I was angry because, in my biased opinion, the controller wasn't doing what I was telling it to do. I think there was some lag.
You're one of those, okay? You're one of those.
So I was like, you know what? Fuck you, controller. All right, you don't respect me. I don't respect you. And I kind of dropped it with full force. So I guess it doesn't count as a drop. And then like the L1 button fell off, and I was like, well, now this is just useless. So then I just smashed the rest of it, and there you go. And then and to this day, there are still pieces of controller in the park across my road. So there you go. Dogs are probably playing with like an old PlayStation controller. I regret it.
Wow.
I'm an idiot. It's a real loser thing to do, but there you go. My life story.
Yeah, there's a lot of controllers that have seen the end of their existence with Casper, and I thought you'd go to the park and bury them as like a little thing to show all the other controllers what not to do next time when you are playing.
I leave them open on the grass so that the next time a controller defies me, I open the window, the blinds, and I'm like, look at that guy right there. That could be you if you don't stop fucking around.
That reminds me of a quick story, lads. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah,
good story,
no worries.
Right? I recently gave my brother broke his controller, so I gave him one of my controllers. He only lives like 10 doors down.
Is this Patrick Sheen? Is this the one that stole your PlayStation on that Christmas many years ago?
Here's another Christmas PlayStation story, which is even worse, right? Once I was just finished college, right, and I didn't have like a PlayStation or an Xbox or anything. So one time for Christmas, he bought me, I think it was FIFA World Cup game, and I was like, why you buy me FIFA World Cup game? I don't even have a PlayStation. He's like, oh, you can come to my house and play it on a PlayStation. Like, he bought himself a game. Out of spite, I went and bought a PlayStation 4. Just out of spite for him buying that. What a prick, like. What a prick.
Oh, man, I do. He got you. That's the classic Simpson bowling ball with his name on it. You knew you weren't going to be able to use it, and he was going to take it off you.
He's a big fan of you guys too. He listens every week, so he'll definitely be listening to this.
Shout out to
big shout out to him, actually. I do notice him on social media all the time. Thanks so much for his support. He seems like a good guy. Maybe we should get him on the show rather than Sean. You know, he gets a little bit lippy sometimes, Sean, so we might have to.
That more sense than me.
Might have to switch the brothers around. But I was going to say, Sean, thanks so much for jumping on the program, guys. That is the end of the show. Thanks for putting up with our technical difficulties last week. It's great to be back. A big thank you to Tim Kennedy, Andre Fili, Dillon Danis for coming on the program and joining us in our return. We're a little bit like Lyoto Machida.
Great hair.
You know, I was going to say something about hair, but I'm losing my hair as well. Casper's got great hair. And I don't know. What do? I got stubble. I think, is Lyoto Machida still doing the sexy 40-year-old stubble? I'm a sexy guy. Like, I don't have time to shave my face thing going on. Because I do that. So, I know Sean's got a nice set of stubble as well. So me and Sean have stubble. Casper has great hair. Sean's great at FIFA. Casper needs a controller if you guys can send him one.
Donate.
I'm playing Destiny 2 and I'm not enjoying it. I'm asking myself, why am I doing this? Why am I playing this game? I could be doing other things. I could read a book. I could do something with the world, but I'll probably go back to playing Destiny 2 after this. A big thanks to you guys. We'll be back next week with more Submission Radio. Have a great week.